right.
joining me. I know it's a busy
Yeah, no
weekend.
problem, man. Looking forward to it.
I know it's a busy
Sure,
weekend for
it's been a,
Yep.
yeah, no, it's been a crazy week already when you consider, what everything is, what's in line for Oklahoma. Obviously, looking at a fourth semifinal game to cover. You consider the first Baylor game was, I think, a shock to all of our systems when the Bears came out and just smacked Oklahoma in the face and really kind of think started this whole movement towards the team that we saw in Stillwater on Saturday. I thought Oklahoma looked as cool, calm, and collected and controlled as they have all season long. Jalen Hurts looked the part of a quarterback, not necessarily just a running quarterback, which was good to see. And I thought you saw a really complete package from the Sooners against the Cowboys on Saturday. I think Baylor kind of started that transition. Like when you get hit in the face like that and you somehow find a way to survive it, I think the next question for everybody is like, wow, what did we do to get ourselves in that situation, and how do we fix it? And I think obviously, you're looking at an Oklahoma team that has clearly kind of righted the ship and in position now to really, go after this semifinal game and find a way to beat a Baylor team that is 100% confident that they can find a way to beat Oklahoma. So I think the Big 12 championship game looks as sexy as any championship game in college football right now.
Yeah, you mentioned that start of that Baylor game. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that semifinal game against Alabama, only longer and worse because it was against Baylor. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you almost I don't know about expect it, but it's not surprising if Alabama comes out and does that to you. It is definitely surprising when
Right.
Baylor does. And
I think that, what you're looking at is the thing that everybody has got to remember is, football is the same from Pee Wee all the way through college and the NFL when it comes to just some of the fundamental things. And the way that Matt Rule coaches his football team is very, very basic. Like, it's just, there's an expectation for you guys to work as hard as you can for as long as you can and be physical, be the toughest team on the field. And I think that's kind of what you saw out of Baylor was they were the toughest team on the field against the Sooners. And I think that really kind of surprised everybody, including Oklahoma, in this matchup. So, I think that that's the one thing that really kind of stuck out more than anything was, OU was in a fight that I think they were almost unprepared for. So, when you look at this game, I think they're fully aware of what Baylor is capable of, fully aware of what Matt Rule is capable of, and they won't be caught by this team. Because I was completely surprised that Baylor played the way that they did against the Sooners. I didn't expect them to come out there and swinging like that. And I think that, everybody involved in that game was a little bit blown away by just the overall ability of Baylor as a football team. They're not as athletic as Oklahoma. They're not as fast or as big as Oklahoma, but damn, those boys are tough. They flew to the football, and they, it was kind of a no regrets type of night for them. So, yeah, everybody's attention is up. The attitude from both teams, I'm sure, is, in position where they're ready to play football, and there's a respect now that I don't think was there before for the Sooners.
Yeah, you mentioned the defense kind of finding their stride. I had tweeted out a chart I had put together, and basically it looks at predicted points allowed per play. I know you're not a big numbers guy, but bear with me.
I got
predicted points. Essentially, it's a measure of what that play added to your predicted points on that drive. Right? Not all positions on the field are made equally. And you look at 100 play rolling average from the start of that fourth quarter in the Baylor game, and Oklahoma's plummets. I mean, they are playing really, really good defensive football. And you mentioned kind of a mindset thing. It seems to me, and I never played big time football, but it seems to me it's got to be hard to play defense, especially when your confidence is shaken. I mean, everything on the defensive side of the ball is reactionary, and if you don't have confidence in your own reactions and your own, I'm going to go here instead of here, you put yourself at a disadvantage. And it seems like they've kind of found that. I don't know. It'd be nice to see what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I would agree to that. I think that the confidence level from Oklahoma has been kind of up and down throughout the season. When you're especially on the defensive end, like, you believe that what you figured out through the first 7 games of the season or whatever it was leading up to Kansas State to be true. Your keys are true. If we do these things defensively, we're going to have success. And then Kansas State shows you just something that make you believe that maybe everything that I thought as far as my keys was true, but it's not. They gave him some things to think about. I thought Kenneth Murray was taken advantage of in that game because of his overall aggressiveness and trust in Alex Grinch's scheme. And then I think the biggest mistake of the day was Alex Grinch's inability to adjust to a Skylar Thompson that was just having the best damn game of his career. And I think, this is where you and I will always kind of not necessarily disagree, but the way that we assess football games will be different. Because as I'm watching Skylar Thompson play, I'm thinking, well, hell, this kid's having the best game of his career. They need to adjust for the passing game. You're probably thinking, like Alex Grinch is thinking, is analytics say this guy's not worth a shit, and he's going to throw the ball to us. And he rode that frame of thinking the entire game. And at the end of the day, when you think about it, everybody wants to talk about Skylar Thompson in the run game and how it had a huge impact, and that's why they won the game. The reality is when that dude was called on to go 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 7 and throw the football, he did it every single time. And that's where you really saw OU lose that. I thought they lost confidence in the defense at that point because it was like they couldn't fix it. They couldn't find a way to stop it. It's because they were too worried about that kid on the ground and not enough about what he was doing through the air. Analytics said he's not a good passer, and they rode that through the end of the game. The one thing I love about Matt Rule is he's a really good in-game coach, really good. Like the guy assesses his football team by the minute, and I feel like he puts them in situations to have success within the game. Lincoln Riley is an incredible offensive mind. There's no question about that. But some of the decisions that I feel like are made within the game show you that, one, he is the offensive coordinator and he is busy, and two, that maybe, trusting in the numbers is a little bit, I'm not saying it's overrated by any means, but I think you need to have a very open and well-rounded view of it. So I think confidence was lost against Baylor. I think it was found over the next several weeks. I think it was confirmed against Oklahoma State, and I would be pretty surprised to see their confidence dip against Baylor for the second time.
That's a pretty good point about the numbers. You get wrapped up in the odds and the numbers, and odds say he's going to throw a pick at some point, or odds say this, or odds say that. But you have a tendency. You have the tendency, or it could be a trap. With the old gambler's fallacy, right? Like they're due, right? He hasn't thrown a pick all game. He might throw one this time. It's like you bet on black and lose. You bet on black again, you lose. You're like, well, it's bound to happen sooner or later. Next thing you know, you're down to $1,000 and you don't know what happened, right? And so it's one of those things where, yes, the numbers can tell you things, but as far as, when things happen, there's still some random and ambiguity, and you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, thinking that, well, next time it has to happen, right? That's a pretty good point.
Yeah, I think that, to flip that, I'm also the dude that, I'll get a little. You listen to the show. I 100% am a eye test guy, and sometimes you'll hear numbers, and you think to yourself, well, there's no way in hell that my eye is correct just based off of the numbers that you're seeing. And then I'll go back and like you've done this to me actually. Like I follow you on Twitter, and you'd be amazed how many times like I'll read your tweets on like a Friday or a Saturday of just kind of about what's going on with the games, whether it's OU or not, and think to myself, man, that's a really good point, something I'll watch for in the next week. Numbers do absolutely matter, and numbers do tell a story. There's no question about that. Like I might be an eye test guy, but I'm still the guy that tunes in to see what the time of possession is. Like if I haven't watched the game and somebody wants my opinion, I will go to the game stats and find out who won the time of possession, and that'll be the basis off of, to discuss whatever happened in that game, just because I know that this team is able to control the line of scrimmage and keep their offense on the field, things like that. So the numbers do matter for sure. Analytics matter, but I think there's a balance to be had today that you can't allow yourself to, like you played the game, you've coached the game, you've been prepped for it in every way. You can't allow the numbers to distract you to the point that you're failing because of them. Like I look at what's happening in Michigan. I feel like that's a numbers thing at times. I feel like Georgia's offense is so simple that it's got to be a numbers game that they're playing. Like they simplified it so much and they're talking about the relationship between their defense and their offense. I'm like, somebody's telling that DC or that OC that if you do these things, your defense wins this many times, that the result says that you're going to win the football game. Because I can't for the life of me understand how any head coach would allow them to be as stagnant as they are offensively in 2019, other than they're playing towards their strength, which is their defense. And I think you'll see that again on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm the first to admit, I make my Twitter is, I understand that I'm not doing deep analysis, right? Like most of the things I tweet out are for yucks, basically, right? That's why I have in my bio statistical infotainment. I'm not I'm not trying to like make some some grand definitive statements, because there's signal and there's noise. I'm sure it's the same way when evaluating players and the quote unquote eye test. You see somebody playing on the field, there's signal and there's noise. Well, this guy went for an 80-yard touchdown. Was that because he did something incredible, or was that because somebody, made a bonehead move on the defense and left him wide open? So context matters, and the more context you have, the better.
Yeah, no, I'd agree to that for sure. I mean, you got to have. I think it's like I said, it's a both sides situation. Like, you would never believe how many kids in college football just miss assignments. They get a little overwhelmed in the moment, and they look up and they see something differently, and they miss their assignment. And for all we know, that missed assignment is whoever is taking down these numbers, and they're saying, well, look what happened there on this play. That third down percentage was whatever, and all they know is they don't know that the kid just screwed up. You know what I mean? Things like that. So I think there's always there's always two sides to a story. I think that the college football game has come a long ways in the last 20, 30 years, in relation to what the NFL has been when it comes to evaluating talent, evaluating athletes, size, speed, the whole 9 yards, and the recruiting basis. And now you're seeing it creep into the game a little bit. But look, the product is good. I'll tell you right now, like I have been thrilled with this year's college football season from top to bottom. I think the Power Five has offered us, 7 schools that potentially can play in a semifinal game that deserve to be in the conversation coming into this weekend. That's pretty damn cool. I mean, it has, as much as Ohio State sticks out and LSU sticks out, and there's Clemson, and I get it, but for Utah to be taking the field here in 15 minutes with a real shot, and with a team that physically is up to the standard. Like, that's the thing. Utah will hit you in the mouth, and it's a bunch of big Polynesian guys up front of both the offensive and defensive line. They've got a nice little quarterback. Receivers are talented. I would say probably one of the best running backs in the country. I mean, that's a damn good football team that's here ready to play tonight in a Pac-12 that I don't think we thought was worth a shit coming into the season. So I'm pretty excited for the weekend. Just a bunch of good football going to be played.
Yeah, you mentioned Utah being good. There's been a lot of maybe vitriol from OU fans on Twitter, but analytics wise, it's really a toss up between Oklahoma and Utah. They can't seem to decide one way or the other who's the better team, and Utah might have the edge in one analytics rating, and Oklahoma might have the edge in the other, but it's a close deal, which kind of. So this brings me to a question. We've talked about it on this show before, and I've talked about it with John Hoover before. So the mission of the College Football Playoff Committee is to pick the 4 best teams, or rank the teams by what they think are the best teams, right?
Yes, sir.
But they also seem to use some things that seem to go, make the argument for most deserving, right? Like, who have you beaten? Top 25 teams. Who'd you lose to? These are like, they may tell you a bit about, how good a team is, but a lot of times, no one on earth would say that Kansas State is a better team than Oklahoma, right? Yet Kansas State beat Oklahoma. So, these are like things that go to a most deserving argument. So I say all this to ask you the question, what do you think it should be? The committee seems to use both, a little of both. What do you think it should be based off? Best teams
I think that
or most deserving
yeah,
teams?
the committee probably is doing it the only way that it could be done. I would probably do it the same way the committee is doing it because, at the end of the day, like Georgia is a damn good football team. If they beat LSU in the championship game, they should 100% be able to represent the SEC, which you could argue is the best conference in college football, in a Final Four. At the same time, LSU has put on a historic performance offensively this season, led by Joe Burrow, who is probably undisputedly the Heisman Trophy winner at this point. What an incredible year that they've had. Both those teams, I could easily say, are top 4 teams in the country. You're looking at arguably the best offense in the league in LSU against, arguably the best defense in the league against Georgia. You're telling me that game is 10-7 in Georgia's favor, that you're going to dock LSU after they've been in the darn conversation all season long? I'm not. I'm absolutely not. On the flip side, you look at Oklahoma at that point, who is out. You look at Utah, who finds their way out of that conversation, and Ohio State that finds their way in, right? Is that your 4? So it'd be Ohio State. No, it'd be Ohio State, Utah, and the 2 SEC teams, right? In that situation.
Right.
And I don't know that I can complain about that. Honestly, like, it sucks for Oklahoma, but when I evaluate, my eye test says Oklahoma is not Georgia or LSU right now. It also says they are about a half skip and a jump away from being there. Like, they're not far from it. And it's frustrating to see Oklahoma lose that opportunity in that case, but I can't argue against those 2 SEC teams getting in. I just can't. Wisconsin, say they beat Ohio State. Like, you're going to tell me that Wisconsin gets a chance to go because they won a championship and Ohio State didn't? Or are you going to tell me that Wisconsin won the championship, congratulations, but Ohio State's a better football team? Well, that's probably the second one. It's probably true, but Ohio State doesn't have a title. At the end of the day, I want to reward teams for winning conference championships, but I also want to see the best damn teams in the country play football because I'm tired of watching semifinal games that are bullshit. Like, I want to see 4 teams play the game that have a real ability to win that game. And, so you have to kind of play that balance to a degree. It's a tough decision. This committee in general is tough. Sometimes I think that I would rather just do the 4-team thing, but use the BCS because it makes more sense to me at times versus a committee that's not completely made up of football minds. Like, I get the committee thing. That's fine. But tell me why I've got to listen to the Secretary of the Army. Why? Why is he on this committee? Like, I get it. That's a smart man. He's had an incredible career. There's no question about that. My father knows the guy. But why am I sitting in the seat I'm sitting in as somebody who has a job that this is my profession to talk about these things, and this guy it's not. But it adds the human factor to it, right? Because for all we know, he values some things that I find differently, or maybe he's a pure analytics number, like having you on that panel, like Blinkin. It's you and I are going to have 2 totally different opinions when it comes to some of these things based off of your knowledge of numbers, and I'm going to be that Barry Alvarez version of a committee member where I want to see somebody control the ball for 4 quarters of football. I'm going to value offensive line play at times even more than quarterback play, which people would find to be unusual. But I've never seen a good football team with a bad offensive line. I'll tell you that right now. Never in my entire life. And so when I look at Oklahoma and I look at this team and I think of how far they've come, you got to give them a ton of credit. But the reality is their offensive line is still not one of the top 20 in college football. They're piecing it together. They're playing their best version of football. But do I believe that their offensive line is going to stop Georgia? No. Stop Ohio State? Of course not. Right? LSU? Maybe. Clemson? Hell no. So that's 3 of the 4 right now that I would say Oklahoma can't block. So even though Oklahoma gets an opportunity with everything going the right way, if they win, if Oregon wins, if LSU wins, Oklahoma's semifinal bound. Does that change the fact that I am pretty confident that Oklahoma's offensive line will not block those 3 teams? No. But they earned a right into the semifinal game. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny, like, I feel like you think that you might be assuming that I want the best teams and numbers wise. I'm actually on the deserving camp. I think if you win football games, you earn a spot in. One of my favorite things in the entire world is the NCAA tournament. I love seeing teams that shouldn't be there win games and beat teams they shouldn't. I love that. I would love to see a conference champion who has 3 losses get in and make a run. That would be amazing. I would love to see that. But yeah, I kind of lean with the deserving camp. I think if you're gonna win ball games, if you're gonna go out and do, make those accomplishments, you should be awarded. You should be rewarded for those accomplishments.
I agree with that. At the same time, I do want to see a champion crowned that is truly a champion. Leave it like if Wisconsin beats Ohio State, Ohio State's the best team in the country, and there's no question about that. Like, there just isn't for me. So I would be frustrated to not see the Buckeyes get into a semifinal game just because I want to see if they're good enough to win the whole darn thing. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see a champion crowned that I feel like is offering the complete package. Wisconsin is not that team right now, but Wisconsin plays a brand of football that if the ball bounces the right way, they can absolutely find themselves in position to win a game like this. That style stuff matters, and the fact that this is the advantage that Clemson has that kind of pisses me off. Like, Ohio State's schedule is just a complete asshole. Like, it is tough, physical teams, physical run games. Wisconsin again in a championship scenario. You're telling me that Clemson had to work their way through the ACC and play Virginia? That's like a vacation compared to a Big Ten or an SEC schedule, or even Oklahoma's schedule in the Big 12 this year, when you consider how physical Baylor is, Kansas State is, Iowa State is, Oklahoma State is. Like, there's a bunch of tough little teams in this league that will take a toll on your body. And I'm looking at Clemson like, cool, I'm glad you guys had a nice, easy year. The rest of us have had our butts beat at times, are bruised and beaten and battered and slower and dealing with injuries. Clemson comes into this weekend freaking clean as a whistle, and they're just thinking about, well, let's just go beat Virginia, then we'll just be 110, come to semifinal game, and let's go play football, versus in Oklahoma that's got to go play the Baylor Bears again, which that team plays like they've been in Alcatraz for a year. Like, that's a physical football team. This is going to be a physical game tomorrow. Utah is going to have a physical game tonight. Oregon's offensive line is one of the best in the Pac-12. I'd probably say one of the top 10 in college football right now. Utah's defensive front is going to take a beating.
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, that Utah defensive line versus Oregon's offensive line, that's good on good. That'll be a good show.
Agreed, completely.
All right, Sam, I can't let you out of here without giving you a little grief about Bedlam.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
Here we go. So, I don't know if you caught the story, but so after I posted the big thread, right, of all the Bedlam facts, which is my favorite thing to do in the entire world. I look forward to it every year. So I'm sitting on the couch. I'm
sure you do look forward to it every year. I'm sure you do look forward to it every year. You freaking win the game every year.
Not every year.
Okay.
Literally, not every year. So I'm sitting on the couch, and it's Friday or it's Thanksgiving maybe, and I see somebody retweet one of the individual ones, right? It's the one about how Mike Gundy is first in Oklahoma State history in like points per game, all-time wins, winning percentage, first all-time, greatest coach in Oklahoma State history. Yet he's 10th in Bedlam win percentage. 10th.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my stomach dropped, Sam. Because I know for a fact that there have only been 9 coaches ever win a Bedlam game for Oklahoma State. So how is Mike Gundy 10th in winning percentage? I was like, I've made a giant mistake. I've made a mistake. My entire credibility is about to go out the window because I've made a bonehead mistake.
Right.
Turns out I did not. Mike Gundy is indeed 10th in Bedlam winning percentage, and he is one of only 9 coaches, OSU coaches, to win a Bedlam game.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to solve my own riddle there. So there was a fella named Albert Exendine who coached OSU in 1934 and 1935. He went 0-1-1 in Bedlam. So
He went 0-1-1
in Bedlam, which gave him a winning percentage of .250, which is better than Gundy's 133.
Holy shit. Oh.
There is a coach who never actually won a Bedlam game that has a better winning percentage in Bedlam than Mike Gundy.
I'm just letting you know right now. Like, the whole point of this night was for me not to go get drunk because I've got to work early. But sitting here and thinking about there's a coach that has only coached a damn thing twice and never freaking won it has got a better winning percentage than the current coach. I cannot wrap my effing head around that right now. Like, how is that even a freaking possibility? I don't get how. I don't understand that how in the built-in biggest game of the damn year every year that they can go out there and be as conservative as they are. When Lincoln Riley, who is a great football coach, not good, great football coach, is running trick plays in the first half of the game, it shows you the emphasis that he's putting on the game. But Oklahoma State's coach can't get past the fact that he's on the field with the OU brand. I'm telling you, it's a mental block. It is. It is a mental block. He cannot. This is the dude from, what is it? The Water Boy, Coach Klein, like walking around in the heels. That's who Mike Gundy is in Bedlam games. He doesn't know where he's at. Like, he literally has some sort of mental breakdown that he can't wrap his head around what's happening in that game. It's crazy to me. It's crazy to me. Like, I've seen this dude do exactly what he did this last game, in games where he was playing for a Big 12 championship on the road. You know what I guarantee? How about this? I can go out to Kingfisher America, Clinton, Guthrie, Broken Arrow, Broken Bow. I don't give a shit where it's at. And poll any high school coach and say, if you were in the scenario when you were on the road against an opponent that you are the underdog to, playing for a championship, what is your mindset in that game? And every one of those high school coaches are going to say, be as aggressive as we can be and execute. That's what they're going to say. Mike Gundy he just can't get out of his own way in that game. And I don't understand it.
It's a tradition unlike any other, Sam. It's amazing.
It? Wait, so what? We're calling the opposing coach, like Mike Gundy, getting in the downward dog position in Bedlam is a tradition now? Is that what it is? Like, when are you going to get sick of winning a game like that? I'm trying to figure out how you get so excited about it.
Well, it's been going on for 15 years now, so I mean. All right, Sam. Final thought for the game going into tomorrow.
Final thought.
Yeah, let's
I wasn't
transition.
in a good mood, by the way, Final thoughts going into the game tomorrow. Oklahoma, once again, is a better team coming into the game. You like their overall size, speed, athleticism. I mean, in a skills competition, Oklahoma beats Baylor off of the field. There's no question about that. The reality is Baylor is what makes football great to me. They're a team that just plays hard, that just executes. They've got a head coach that they believe in. They've got a scheme that works on both offense and defense, and they're committed to it each and every day. Matt Rule has started something very special in Waco, and if they are able to retain him, when you look at the current situation with the Longhorns and A&M, Matt Rule might have something that could last a decade in Waco or longer. This is a huge game for him. It's a huge game for their program, and Lincoln Riley and the Sooners are up again for them. I think that, this is a game that if OU makes mistakes, Baylor will find a way to win and win it in a way that has us all a little bit puzzled and get taken back to a degree, because you just really never see Oklahoma in the position to lose games in a real physical manner because they've been so good over the last 5 years, especially up front along the offensive line. Baylor's defense is nasty. They're intense. They're physical. They don't mess around in any way, shape, or form, and they mean business. If Oklahoma screws this up today, it'll be because they make mistakes on their own. They don't make tackles, and they give up the ball to the Baylor defense. Ball security is everything here. Oklahoma secures the ball. Jalen Hurts does what Jalen Hurts does. Kennedy Brooks is the leading rusher of the team, and Oklahoma wins this game by double digits probably. If Jalen Hurts is the leading rusher and he fumbles the ball or somebody fumbles that ball and they give Baylor a turnover, I mean one, and it might just be enough for the Bears to get it done. So I'll tell you this much. It's going to be a great day of football tomorrow, starting with the Big 12 championship game, but nothing is guaranteed in this one. And I think we all need to sit back and understand that Baylor is not going away anytime soon as long as Matt Rule's at the helm.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's going to be a tough one tomorrow. Thanks for joining me, Sam. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming out, and until next time.
Until next time. Have a good one, sir.
You too.